So like in this case, you have 5 students and this is for 1 student.
That's, yeah, you know, that kind of thing. You see where I see. Okay. All right, good afternoon, everybody. We're going to get started, although everyone who is expected is not here as yet. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Where's the mic?
It's okay.
Okay. Hello? Hello?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
Yes.
I say
One more question. As regards to contact with the school, you want to present it to the letter that you take to the school?
no, what I'd like you to do is you are taking it to the school.
Or just to the student?
But as you get in touch with those people, you give me that information so I can
Okay, with the parents.
not the parents. I got to have come from the parents.
No, but no, because
No, this is what I said. Yes, I give you the wording, but when you want to have that in your thing, but the letter to the contact with the school, you provide me with information so I can contact them. But I just gave a worded letter to see a draft of what but it should be with the school's
the school.
Yes, like the school is permitting that. Okay. All right. This class, we had promised that we were going to do some work with assessment. Do you remember that? Yes. Anybody talking to me? Did we say we were going to do some work with assessment this week? Did we say we were going to do some work with assessment this week? You think so? Okay. All right. I don't think people are hearing me very well, or probably I'm not hearing you very well.
Yes, I have one inside.
Say that again, please. It's not coming through very clearly.
Never echo or feedback.
So, anyway, today we want to be looking at assessments and reporting on student achievement. Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes, I'm hearing you.
Okay.
There's a lot of static
Just ask them to mute them.
Mute and I will talk to you. If you turn on your mic when you want to speak to me. Maybe there's feedback.
Okay.
All right.
Okay.
All right. So we're looking at assessing and reporting today, which is March 16th. There are certain components to this whole business of teaching and learning. And we have the why we have schools, right? Why? Then we have what is it we are going to teach, and how we ask that question and we answer it by saying that we have the how we're going to teach, the strategies, so on. The what is the curriculum. The why, the why is that we value education, and it takes a certain level of expertise to get somebody equipped for adult life and for the world of work. We have the part 4 then is how well, and that is the assessment. Most of the time, if someone puts in some effort, they have an understanding of what is produced. If it's an item like building a chair, it is reliable, somebody can sit on it. and that kind of a thing. When we are teaching, we are trying to find out at different stages what the students is learning. We also have a curriculum for which we have some responsibility, and it outlines for us what it is that we value and what is it we want the students to know. Assessment is the means by which we do that. And we know our assessments, most of them end up using what? A written test, and it is questions needed to be answered with pen or pencil and paper. We are going to be looking at this business of assessment because it is so important, and it's really something that we value, something that is valued in society because it has lots of consequences. Now, anybody want to tell me what you think are the consequences? A partial list, of course, for assessment. Why do we assess? Why don't we say, okay, you've been in school 11 years, that's okay now. You don't have to come back, you get a school leaving certificate, and you do not have to test. Why is it important that we test, that we assess? This is not working. Your mic is anybody? I'm saying I'm not hearing what is being said. Huh? Okay. I'm not hearing what you're saying. Something is wrong with the connection.
Can you hear with this one?
Yes, I can hear you. Why do you think we're talking about assessment and the importance of assessment?
I'm saying one reason why we are saying is if we should reach if our objective has been met. If it is not, we can move on or we reach.
Very good. That's one. We have all kinds of assessment, right? But the culminating assessment is the one that we call the high stakes exam. We have a high stakes exam in the Caribbean called CXC. And that one determines a lot of things. What are some of the consequences of the results from the CXC? Anybody who can?
Tertiary education.
To what?
Tertiary education.
To show your education? Tertiary education. Some people,
Yes.
some people are on their way to tertiary education after they have completed the CXC.
A job.
But some people go
A
to
job.
some people go to the world of work. And so decisions have to be made based on the results. Decisions have to be made based on the results. And at that point, we do not have the luxury of reteaching or reassessing or anything like that, because that is really the external exam that the students are given in order to determine the level at which they leave high school. There are other kinds of assessment, ongoing assessment in the classes, formal and informal. But a number of times we teach to the high stakes exam because we know that the consequences are so important. That's why students and parents have to really, I would say, buckle down to do well in order that they might come out with the best results, which promises a brighter future. And so we have those kinds of things. But as I say, that is just the final assessment. But we have continuing assessment as we go, even in dialogue. Even in dialogue, when we are recapping, say for instance, we started a topic and we are on the second day of the topic, most teachers go back and review and ask certain questions to determine whether or not the students have a sufficiently wide platform in order to build some more information under the same heading. Assessment not only provides the key to effective learning, but my question is, does it provide a key to effective teaching? Does assessment provide?
Yes.
It should provide a key for effective teaching, because what happens is that we have a curriculum for which we take the responsibility, we share the responsibility between ourselves and the students that we teach. And so it also gives you a reading on how well the material is exchanged, digested, understood, and can be applied. As I said, most of the assessment that we do, especially the external assessment, is done through pencil and paper. People gather in a room and mark papers for many hours to see what people have written. There is no face-to-face, there is no spoken word, there is no opportunity to present or to show and tell, something like a scrapbook or a portfolio or anything like that. I think in later years it started with school-based assessment. Do you have school-based assessment, Ramira?
Yes, we do. Fine.
Okay, could you explain that to me?
It's like at the end of at the end of April, all the schools are given one type of exam in maths, English, science, and then now they will see which school, which school is really doing a good job or something.
But are the results?
That's for middle school.
Do we have, Jamaica, do we have the school-based assessment? I know we have it in high schools here.
But that's on the what she's talking about.
But I'm talking about things that will help to give more information on the external exams. I thought the school-based, you can explain it to me, the school-based assessment is meant to give additional information on the student. Isn't that what it is? What is it? Everybody here teaching in a school right now?
Yeah, but I don't teach upper school, but in grade 11 and 6th form, when you do your SBS for CXC, it's basically you're doing a part of the work at home. So you get a part of the work as a project, and you submit that, and that project that you submit is a part of your overall CSEC grade.
That's exactly what I was trying to say.
Right, but the Bermuda school-based assessment sounds different from the
Here's what you guys want. I just want you to explain what is happening in Jamaica.
Oh, okay.
Did you hear that? Did you hear that?
No, I don't.
No.
Yeah. Will you please say so we can hear it?
Right, so in grade 11, and sometimes they start from grade 10, and also for 6th form. So for CXC and for K, students get, so for example, they're doing history. they'll get a history project that they have to complete and submit, and that project will form a part of their overall history CSET grade.
So it means then that they're recognizing that just one piece of assessment at a point in time when your house got burned down yesterday probably might not be the only way to do something, because on the day of the assessment, anything could be happening. We could be having problems with illness, we could be having problems and issues with family, we could be doing all different kinds of things. And so therefore, I think that was a good move to have our students to do something in addition to that one-day test. That is what I'm trying to say. Do you understand that? Because the external exam is just one piece of paper, one day, at one point in time. The person might be at a different level tomorrow, but today is the day that they have to perform on the test. So the school-based assessment is an effort to say, give us a little wider picture on what it is that the student is capable of doing. Okay? I need some water so bad. No, it's all right. My lips are drying up. All right. Now, a lot of times, people do not want to do the other types of assessments because of the fact that it is time consuming. It is time consuming to go through a portfolio. And I think that the project grade is sent in, not the project itself. Is that true? The project grade is sent in.
The grade for most people, but a sample is sent in. So I think they take the highest grade, the lowest grade, and the somewhere in the middle, and they send in those projects.
Yes, because there's too much to send by ministry. Yes. Okay. So then, assessment of achievement in student learning is designed to serve these 7 purposes. Assessment is designed to serve 7 purposes. To assist in student learning, that's one of them. That's a purpose you first think about when you are assessing somebody. You think about the principal topic and what it is you know about it. And that's set forward in the curriculum. Assessment also identifies students' strengths and weaknesses. You already gave me Bermuda one of the reasons. If it's an intermediate assessment, not at the high stakes, but just regular in school, like the monthly test or the grade 3 achievement or the screen test for CXC and so on, we get that kind of information because here we have a chance to reteach. Here we have a chance to apply different strategies. Here we have a chance for questioning and to clear up misconceptions. All of those things we can do when it's not the final assessment. Okay? The third thing, teachers can benefit because they can find the effectiveness of the strategies that they are using. Teachers can determine or gauge the effectiveness of the strategies that they're using. That's the third one. Teachers who are of high quality reflect very often on what they are doing, how the students are responding to the strategies they use, and they might have to adjust, readjust, or change strategies that they use if they see that it is not as effective as they would like it to be. But here, you are giving feedback, you are reflecting, so it's going both ways. You're reflecting on yourself, you're giving feedback to the students. And in a way, the students is giving feedback to you by their performance. Number 4, sometimes we have something in the curriculum that is not as beneficial to the students as we first thought. And so they have made some changes. And so assessment can help to determine what these changes are. Like, it has not been such a long time since they have this school-based assessment, because it might be in for a few years. But the thing is that earlier on, they were not doing that. It just depended on the one day, one point in time, the response that was given, and they make the determination. Very, very critical determination on those results. You can improve your teacher effectiveness. That's number 5.
I think that's one. I mean, I didn't get the importance of assessment in that one.
To improve or change the curriculum. I just said that they changed it, the way they do things, like giving the school-based assessment. What they do, they can meet, the people who are stakeholders can meet and say, you know, over the years we have seen that this is so or that is so, and a child might not be at peak performance or peak, in terms they might be a little bit ill, something might be happening in the family. Let us get a school-based assessment that they can do over time so that they can express themselves over time and not just in a one day for this big exam. Number 5, teachers can look at themselves critically in a reflection and try to change to be more effective in their teaching. Maybe they realize that every student does not learn everything they say at the pace that they would like, so probably they'll have to give a little tutorial or something, or they said, you know, I didn't reach 80% or 90% of my students with this particular strategy. So probably I will change the strategy, adjust some elements of it, or just forget it altogether because I want to be more effective. You can provide data. You can, you know, some teachers at the end of school, like at the end of CXC, they might even say, I know of a job somewhere. Because I've been in a place already where one of my students was given a job on the spot. On the spot. So we know that you can provide data to assist in decision making. Now there are some jobs that require that if you're going from school to the world of work, they might say we want somebody with a CXC level. I know I hear sometimes on the radio you need 5 subjects or 6 subjects to be admitted to a college or another institution, tertiary institution. You can do this. And so, okay. And sometimes people in private industry or the private sector will call up the school of, you name it, call up the school of education, call up the school of computer science, call up the school of biological science and say, you know, I would like you to send me your best student because we have a job opening. But sometimes you might have to give advice. You as a teacher would have to give advice and say, okay, you have gotten this many subjects, but it doesn't include math or English. So probably what you should do is focus on getting those through in order that you might be more marketable. So it's a real decision making when the exams are high stake. Now, number 7, to communicate with parents. You know, sometimes parents do not attend school meetings or parent-teachers meeting until we say that the reports will be given out. And some schools communicate with the parents on an ongoing basis, but they like to see the written report with the comments from the teachers, because school is not all the math, it's also things to do with the ability to work in groups. It is your ability to be in attendance on time and those kinds of things which matter in the world of work. Okay? Because the welfare and the future of so many people depend on the outcome of assessments, it is impossible to overemphasize its importance. So all those things that we have just spoken about, we know that a teacher is responsible to facilitate student learning. Hence our title, How Children Learn Mathematics. So the teacher is responsible to facilitate the students' learning, to assess student progress. So the teacher is held accountable. Assessment is a continuous process. It's not a one-day thing. Because teachers ask a number of questions, and that is just informal assessment. So you have to select the plans you make and implement the plans and activities that teachers need to monitor and assess the progress based on your plans, because you might have to change your plans. As I said before, assessment is not only reflective on the student, but also on the teacher. Also, students need to know how they're doing. How am I doing? How am I doing? They want to know from you because they look to you as a person who is objective and fair and have the ability to make some statement about their progress. All right, reflection and self-assessment I mentioned before. So this whole business of assessment, not only that you know what the child is doing, but it helps you to become a better teacher. Now, sometimes people use the word assessment and evaluation interchangeably. Some books quibble about that and say, no, they're not the same thing. But for right now, we are going to think of measurement and assessment to be something that you can quantify. If I'm measuring something, it has some numbers associated with it, right? Yes? That is why we give this much. That's why we give that much on different tests. We weight them differently, and so we can measure. It is descriptive. It tells us what the person is doing and the level of their mastery. So we can say that it is an objective process. If somebody, if 15 people in a room are responding to the same items, it is objective, because this is not a teaching period, this is a testing or assessment period. So it includes objective data. We can gather data from it. We can say, you know, we talk about the statistics, the mean, the standard deviation, and we even talk about, from one section of the school to the other. Like for instance, if you have 5, 7 grade classes, sometimes they might look, and even it might bring a teacher to be the most effective in the 7th grade. And sometimes you get accolades, sometimes you get your picture taken as a teacher of the month. The thing is we talk about validity and reliability. Validity, we say that is it valid in terms of the curriculum? Are we teaching what is on the curriculum? Is it grade level appropriate? I've seen some people sometimes they teach below the grade level, and that's okay, because sometimes you have to pedal backwards in order to bring them forward if there's something that you have to reteach and remind them about. Okay? Now, if I'm using a rubric, right, that makes it more reliable. Because if I'm using a rubric, I say you need to name 10 things to get an A. You need to name 8 things to get a B, and that kind of a thing. And it also helps with helping the student to understand where they're going and help them to know when they got there and at what level. Because some kids might say, some students might say, I don't need to call them kids, some students might say, I'm working for a B because I have so many other things to do. Okay? We have authentic assessment, different types of assessment. When assessing student achievement, it is important that you use procedures compatible with the instructional objectives. I just said that in another way. If you're teaching for them to understand and to become proficient in the skills outlined in the curriculum, that is authentic assessment. Now, other terms used when we're talking about authentic assessment, we talk about accuracy, we talk about alignment with the curriculum, we talk about alternative assessment, and we talk about direct assessment. Now, performance assessment. Can anybody tell me what performance assessment means? Anybody? Can you turn on your mic and try to tell me? Okay. Performance assessment has to do, it's an alternative assessment from pencil and paper. Performance assessment has to do with the person doing something while they're being assessed. So it could be the results of a research, it could be the result of a project and the presentation which you guys will have to be doing shortly. And it has to do with you have a rubric on which you are assessing the person. And sometimes even students in the class could be part of that, because sometimes students are good judges of what is going on in terms of a report. Okay? So we're going to talk more about that. We have the traditional versus alternative, and we just talk about it. Pencil and paper versus performance. We're going to talk about another kind of assessment, which we sometimes use. But a lot of the assessments that could be even more effective than pencil and paper assessment are not done because of the time-consuming nature. But we find that who really likes true-false exams, true-false questions on test assessments? True-false, that it tells you what the kind, when you're talking math. Yes, it's a math class, this. Oh, yeah.
Ano, at
So, the thing is though, that we have to know that the way the true false question can be worded, sometimes you really have to think through it and you have to show that you know just by that. So true false is one type, multiple choice. Multiple choice. I'm not hearing any responses. The thing is that people give multiple choice exams and they give the electronic kind, so you slide them through the device to get the results. So you can collect thousands and thousands of paper in 1 hour because you just feed them through the machine and they get marked. But the other types of assessment where we talk about performance or we talk about portfolio, we don't have that opportunity. It takes time. Okay? The performance objective assessment came in the 1990s, where we say it gives a broader picture of the students rather than just giving them this pencil and paper test. Alright? Now, the performance assessment has some common features with the pencil and paper. Because sometimes if they have to write something, you can judge their English. While they're speaking, you can also judge their English. Language delivery is important. And every test that we give, they have to either read and understand English or provide some narrative of their own. The alternative assessment process is more, what would say, comprehensive. It's more comprehensive. Questions can be open-ended. Questions can be open-ended. For instance, probably on a test, you will give a person 2 things to add together or 2 things to take the union or the intersection. But probably on a performance, they will provide the data in the question. So if I say set A contains these many elements and name them what they are, same thing with B, find the union, find the intersection. Maybe you could say, give me 2 sets, show me the intersection and show me the union of these 2 sets that you have formulated. And so therefore we have that. So one thing, it can be open-ended. If we're in low grades, we can say, I have 2 numbers, make as many problems as you can from this. Or make 4 problems if they're in lower grades. Right? Performance assessment also has the property that it measures higher order thinking skills because you have to express yourself. Measure higher order thinking skills. It also requires extended time for completion. Teachers don't like that in the main. They like when they have brought closure to this topic and they build on it under some other topic. They don't want anything to be lasting 2 and 3 weeks. A lot of performance assessment type assignments are designed for group projects. They're designed for group projects. They provide students with several options for demonstrating their learning. They provide students with several options for demonstrating their learning. Probably they could use a PowerPoint. Probably they could use props. They could bring in models. They could do different things. It uses, suppose you give a child an open-ended question like, I want you to make a structure out of toothpicks or matchsticks. So if you hold this ball when I put it on it, that is like an engineering project. It won't collapse when you press this orange on it. Then you will find that that takes time, and you have to wait, and you have to set a date, and then you have to test to see if it works. That is more objective. If I say to you, make a, I noticed that I think in grade school they make volcanoes, is that true? Yes. They make volcanoes. Your volcano needs to erupt when it comes in. Okay? So your volcanoes have to erupt to know that you have reached your goal. Alright? Now portfolio is another type of assessment. Portfolio is another type of assessment. It provides another opportunity for evaluating the learning. But talk about time consuming. Students are encouraged to evaluate their work on a continuous basis by deciding what goes into the portfolio. So for instance, suppose we are working on, give me a topic. We are working on factoring. When we work on factoring in this school? Factoring quadratics. When is that? 10th grade, factoring quadratics. They might be doing that over time because we have different ways of finding the answers to quadratics, okay? So probably, if they have to use a quadratic formula, that's one way to find the answer. Factoring is one way to find the answer. But sometimes in factoring, you might have given a little informal quiz and the person put back the results and put it in their portfolio. But when you give the monthly test, they notice that they nailed it. And so therefore, they can exchange what they had in the portfolio for the better grade on the work on that same topic. Do you understand me? So you're working on a topic, you have intermediary assessments, you're getting it graded, and with the portfolio, you can put your best effort, result reflected in the grade or in your portfolio. You must be aware of the quality when you're dealing with the portfolio. The teacher has to have conferences, not only to look at the portfolio, but to say, Ricardo, I find that, it seems that this is where you have, this is a one-on-one now. Ricardo, I see where it seems as if you're having a problem at this point. Do you know, can you ask me a question? Do you know where you're having problems? Can you ask me a question about it? Because from my evaluation of the problem, it seems as if you do not know the next step to take you to your answer. So that's the work with portfolio. So you have to have conferences, you have to you have to be making decisions along the way, and so it takes a long time before we have this portfolio with all the desired pieces of information. The advantages of using a portfolio as an assessment tools are many. From what we have just said, what I've just said, can you see the advantages of that? Of a portfolio? I'm talking to people.
I don't see how, maybe I don't understand what you're saying, but how do you use that as an assessment? Because what I see as an advantage is for the student to see where they were how they're doing, how they've improved, where they fell down, that kind of thing.
Yes.
I see how the students assessing themselves over the duration.
But with your help, because you have to sit down with the students periodically, look at their portfolio, see what has gone into it, and make a decision. You know, last week or last month, your end of the month test, which included this, and this, you didn't do so well. But as we strengthen it, as we teach, it seems as if you're doing better. But it's meant to help the students. Because any given day, a student can be at the peak of performance or not at the peak. So that's why that's the criticism for the high stakes test. And especially when there's no chance of going back. There's no chance of going back. All right?
Can be used in feedback
Yes.
to parents and the students too.
Exactly. And some people's portfolio are displayed, you know, like the classroom will clear the desk on Parents' Day, and they can come in and look through, and they can look through projects, and they can look through look through the portfolio to get a picture or profile of the students. And I know that you can keep portfolios in any class. So if you think that your son Ricardo wasn't doing so well, you can stick out your chest and be very proud when you see some of the increased mastery reflected in the portfolio. It is authentic. There's nothing false about it. There's nothing made up about it. It's just the true reflection of what transpired during this period of teaching and learning. It allows students also to become evaluators of their work. It allows students to become evaluators of their work. But although it has many advantages, and another advantage is that it's collected over time, and that's very good. But this type of assessment, the portfolio, it is not without the disadvantages. Most people, as I said before, talk about how time-consuming that is. It's best to now give you 5 problems on this assignment. I mark it, I sign it, and I'm done. That's time-consuming enough. Because if you have 35 students and you do 5 problems, right? How many questions that you have to respond to? 5 times 35. 175 to mark one assignment. So the thing is that you have to know that teachers spend more than half their life marking papers. Now, I want you to think about this for a little while, and then you are going to comment. You need to make notes now as I write about yourself. About yourself. Please make notes about yourself. Think about the class you're currently teaching, if you are currently teaching. Are you using any form of performance assessment? Are you using any form of performance assessment? Do you think it is effective? You don't have to share this information with anybody, but this is a kind of looking back, a kind of reflection on your own practices. So you need to be true to yourself because it's not going to be under scrutiny. Think about the class you're currently teaching. Are you using any form of performance assessment?
Yes.
Yes.
So you need to answer the question also, the follow-up question, do you think it is effective?
Yes, it is.
Okay. If it's not, then could the strategy be changed? So that's what teachers have to do. And to thine own self be true. You know, this is not going for assessment by anybody. This is just looking inward, introspection. So anybody want to share on things that they're doing an effective job with performance assessment? Anybody wants to share with the class? I'm listening. Hello?
Let me.
Hello?
I'm trying to figure out one.
Okay.
I teach an introduction to statistics class.
Yes.
And as part of the class, students are required to prepare a research project and make a presentation. They use some of the concepts that they learned because they need to be able to do analysis to calculate mean, median, error, standard deviation. And the project is usually about some issues in the
Okay. And they have to give a report.
Yes, then they have to give a report in the end.
Okay. Well, that is good. That's very good. Because we have a situation. We have a situation there where they have to, it's open-ended. But with some guidance, yes. But you have to, you know, once you set up what they're supposed to do. What's that what? It's my first time here, but good afternoon. All right. That is, statistics lends itself to performance of assessment. It lends itself very, very well. Statistics, statistics is a course that lends itself to performance assessments in a very natural way. I'm sorry I'm having so much difficulty because look like you have something to say about the statistics. Because statistics has to deal with data that is randomly secured if we want it to be objective. Okay? So that lends itself very well. But what I'm encouraging us to do now is to think of things that we can use in a classroom where we might not see the link as clearly between what we are teaching and how well it lends itself to the type of objective performances that we're talking about. Okay. Now, there are a couple types of assessment. Do we know what they are? Do we know what types of, two main types of assessment?
Yes. Summative and formative.
Very good, very good. We have summative assessment and we have formative assessment. Every minute we are teaching, we're assessing. Every second we're in the classroom, we're assessing. We're assessing body language, we're assessing ability to respond accurately. We are looking at people, how they concentrate. We see some people playing with their rulers, some people playing on their phones, that kind of a thing. So what we are doing, we are assessing. And sometimes what they're doing is publishing their level of interest in what is occurring. So we have formative assessments are ongoing assessments. We review and we observe. They are used to improve instructional delivery in the classroom. You know, today I did a lesson on such and such. And the students were able, say, to look at different types of triangles, and the students were able to go to the computer and to use a software that was so user-friendly. The students were so interested. And when I gave the assessment, people just did so well. And we say, oh, that is very good. You observe them. You could have a group type arrangement in your class where they're working to produce something at the end, and all the reports seemed as if they got the picture. Those are the kinds of things that we could observe after we're using certain strategies. Okay? The teacher is helped and the students are helped. No assessment goes. When I did my O levels, my teacher waited outside to talk to us after the exam. And when we told her what we did, she started crying. But she was saying, if you did all of that, you must have at least, those days they call it was a 1, 2, 3. It was like credits and distinctions and those kinds of things. But she started to cry. She said, if you did all of that, then there is no way that you will just pass. You must get something above the just pass level. So formative assessment is ongoing. You get feedback as you go along. Now, just hear the word summative. What do you think about those kinds of assessment? Summative assessment.
That is like CXC.
That's like what?
CXC exam.
Yes, CXC exam, that is summative. But we have some summative exams in our classes also, right? Because sometimes the assessment that we give in math says this student is not ready for this next step. And probably, I know that it happens in Jamaica here or in the Caribbean, but sometimes the student could be promoted to the next class, but they have to step down at a point in time to do Spanish or to do the math or to do whatever, because the proficiency level at which they demonstrated on the end of year exams, it doesn't seem fit that they should go on to pile on to a store of knowledge that has gaps. And that could happen the other way as well. Some children are very proficient in the area of mathematics or in the area of computer science, and they might go to the regular, say, 8th grade for the other subjects that they're doing well in, but that as well. Because when you get exceptionally well, they can go to a higher level to do another subject or two. So that's how we have the gauging of what students do. Okay? So formative assessment is lots more often than the summative assessment. We can have summative assessments because remember, CXC is the big one. That one is the king of the hill. But the students must go from first form to second form to third form and so on. And all those have some summative assessments, like at the end of the year or the end of the month. When I ask you to do something, do these examples in class, that is formative. But when I say, okay, we are studying this body of knowledge, I want you to demonstrate your mastery of the information, that will be a summative assessment. Summative assessments in the school from first form up through fourth form and during fifth form, those are administered by the teacher. It gives everybody feedback. Everybody gets feedback. The parents, the student, and the teacher. Student might say, I have to buckle down, I might have to ask questions more often. The teacher say, I must change my strategy, because this is the second year where I see my students are going in the same direction last year, which was not what I expected. So they have to look inwards, teachers have to look inwards, teachers have to look outwards. Okay? Summative assessments are given at predetermined time. Formative assessments are given any old time. Any old time. A student asks a question, that is an assessment. Right or wrong. Or something that could be corrected. So it's all assessment. Typically, these summative exams or assessments are given to evaluate the instructional program at predetermined times. You have the GSAT, which is a big summative, but before that they go to a lot to decide if they're going to do GSAT. Because in Jamaica, if you do not pass the grade 4, you go to something step. You go to some step program. But the thing is that you have a situation where the summative is more high stakes than the formative. Because probably in a question the teacher asks to a class, if somebody answers it correct, he might amplify on it, or if it's not answered correctly, correct the misconceptions. So all that is going on right there. Okay? And so a decision is not made, well, I'm not going to teach this child anymore. You fix it. You fix it. But in the summative, big consequences. The assessments help educators to make a determination of student competency after an instructional phase. So that would be like the high school phase. That would be the summative. The GSAT is given at the end of primary school. That is a decision-making exam. Did I get into the school that I wanted to get? Did I get my first or second choice? And so, this lady told her son that at a certain point in the city, she does not want to go to any school beyond that line that she has drawn in her mind. Because she said, I am not crossing over the bridge. Because you know, over the bridges, the reputations of the school start going down. Do we see that? So, big consequences for these types of exams. It determines placement, as we say, right? In the Caribbean, GSAT, CXC, CAPE are examples of summative assessment. These provide information to the curriculum designers as well. It provides information to the curriculum designers. Because what happens here, it says, we cannot have these failing percentages in math year after year after year after year. We need to do something. So now we are piloting the SBA is one, but they're piloting the tablets in school to say that the children might be more involved. Some people have different opinions about that. So that they play all the time But I don't know, there must be some kind of expertise that can limit what it is that they can find on their tablets. I don't know. So if they see profound weaknesses in area, they mobilize. They begin to do something. They begin to say, what can we do with the teachers? What can we do with the materials? What can we do? What can we do? So the results of these summative assessments do affect the curriculum designer. The workforce that we have, for the people who did not go to university, they are a big group that these summative assessments influence. Should I go back and get some more subjects? Teachers are coming back to school to get masters so that they can get better pay, I think. So those are the kinds of things. So examples of formative assessments are, what kind of formative assessments you give in your lesson? Quizzes, yes. You can write essays, you can write journals. Diagnostic tests, those are formative because it gives you opportunity to give feedback and to correct course and to get with the program. Reports, that will be the performance, where you have a project and you give a report. Summative assessments are like final exams or end of the year exams and those kinds of things. How do classroom teachers improve learning? They have to develop useful assessments because you know that children take a kind of confidence from assessments as well. If they're doing well, they say they feel more empowered to try and to stick with the process. Sometimes if they reach a sticky point. If a child is failing and failing and failing, sometimes they move to the back of the class, shut the teacher down, and do something else. They just don't. When I say shut the teacher down, I don't mean they stop the teacher from talking. They just block the teacher out. And so kids get feedback also. So when a teacher sees that, that teacher has to do something about it. Assessments that are most appropriate to improve students' learning. That's what I said. How do classroom teachers improve student learning? Do you know that you can give second chances in formative assessments? Can you give second chances? Yes. Children work for me when I give second chances because, children, your children have textbooks in school. Your children are issued textbooks in school, right? Yes. Well, what I do, I said, look, you see this place where you went wrong? No, you cannot get an A. You cannot get an A. But I can give you an assessment and I take my notes as to what the grade is it that you have. And I write the grade, right? I will give a little indicator where there is a problem. And I will give the child the assessment. I return it to the child. And I say, I want you to take your textbook and correct this test. So what I'm telling the child to do, you have to find where it is, you have to read it, you have to look at the examples again, you have to do the problem. Okay? So what I'm doing, I am sending the child on a research to find out where. And then beside the problem, they have to put the page, they have to say where they went wrong, and they have to do all of that, and then bring it back to me. And I will give you additional points. Because do you think they learned something while they were doing that research? Yeah, so I give them that to do because they want the extra marks. So they will go back and they'll say, you know, to solve a simultaneous equation, it's on page so and so. Then they will say, you know, I did not multiply correctly. So they themselves have identified the problem. You see that? So that can happen, but I don't know how many teachers, you know, take the opportunity to do that. The quizzes, the tests, the written assignments, the oral reports, the projects, it's given on an ongoing basis in the class. These assessments are directly related to the instructional goals. And that's what you want them to get. You want them to get to the goals successfully. It provides a reliable indication of the student's progress. They're true indicators because they're criteria based. The last time, one of the times before, we described the difference between criterion based and what? Normative based. Normative based is what they think you should know by age in this area, by age so and so in this area. But criterion, I taught you how to do long division. I taught you how to find area of a rectangle or in what you call it, compound shaped figures. Those are criterion based. When I give an exam, a test, a quiz on that particular thing, it's criterion based. But on the summative exams, you say you should know this by now. And that's normative has to do with that kind of information that you want to get from a student. As a living, walking person, you should know this by this time. Because that time you're compared to other students with the norm-based exams. But the criterion-based teacher wants to know if you got the message of what I've been trying to teach over this week. Or at the end of this week, you will be tested on it. They're true indicators because they're criterion based. Either you know how to solve this simultaneous equation or you know how to find the area or you don't. You're not being compared to anybody else. The GSAT, you're compared to other people because the people who are in the top echelon goes to certain schools and the people who are at the bottom of the totem pole goes to certain other schools that a lot of people are not racing towards. They want to stay far away from these schools. Parents want to stay far away from these schools. I was in the airport one time about, when was the GSAT results come out? In June? June or July? It's done in March?
It's certainly before the summer holidays. It's possibly.
It's possibly in June. And I was there, I don't know where I was going. But I just saw a lot of people, uniformed people just running back and forth, you know, because I was at the American Airlines counter. And they were just running back and forth. I've got it, you know, because they have spoken already about where they, you know, the first choice for the children. And the results came and they took some time out to share the good news. There was laughter, there was running, there was everything around. I was at the American counter in Kingston here, and they were just running up and down. We got you, we're going to this, we're going to that. And people were happy, and some people were not so eager to report because they did not get their desired school. So we have that kind of a thing. Because the GSAT rank order the students. they rank order the students. So people in the 95s are set aside from people who got the 85s, are set aside from the people who got the 75, not to mention those who got 45. So it's rank orders. Actually, yeah? Okay. The students benefit from the feedback, and so you have the large-scale national exam will rank order, so you know how important assessment is, right? The other thing about the summative assessment is that they're not given back right away. You know, they're taking the exams this week, and this is March. This is March. They do not get the results back until June. And you know, some of the schools, the students have very little to do. The GSAT students have very little to do between the time they take the exam and the time the results are given. It takes months to be published because a whole cadre of people now have to mark these papers, and they have to all be, you know, they have to be assessed. They have to be collected, they have to be ordered again, I said, and ranked, and all of that. And on the CXC, they have to do that as well because they mark on a curve. They mark on a curve at the CXC level. So the non-reference tests are the ones that are very high stakes. Assessments are important and are widely used in class, however. But few teachers receive any formal training in assessment design or analysis because most of them comes out from the other people who write the exams. That's one. Two, when you're doing the formative, you're doing criteria and reference. So you give problems of the same type and so on. So as a result, in our training sessions, teachers can say, you know, I want to do the next 5 questions or pick up some questions from the number of questions on the exercise set, but they do not have formal training on that. So teachers, I don't recommend that you write a question and give it out to be an assessment unless you have worked the question and decided that the skills that the student needs to accomplish a high level to demonstrate a high level of mastery, they have those skills already as prerequisites. Because some teachers just write something down, they haven't worked it themselves, and there is a problem with the question. The assessments that we use for the high stakes exam are generally externally generated. It could be by textbook publishers or whatever. You have a test section. And a lot of times, the teachers have a test bank because they get the supplementary books to aid with the use of the text. So they can get a test bank book. They can get a suggested chapter test at the end and say this could be the chapter test because they have studied it and knows that it has taken into consideration every skill that they're supposed to demonstrate. Okay? The teachers should make assessment useful. For them, it should be a meaningful source of information. They should not surprise students with tests. Anybody here give surprise test? Anybody give pop quizzes? I don't. But there are many opinions about that. But I want to know when I'm tested because I want to be on my best. At least I want to be aware and try to put my best foot forward. So even when I go to assess my teachers, I tell them when I'm coming. I show them the document that they're going to be assessed from in terms of the rubric and the areas so that they know where to put your best foot forward. So that's what I do. You shouldn't try to give them something that they haven't seen before. You can give them something in combination of what they've seen before. You know, it doesn't have to come in the same form, but they should have the skill. You should have taught what they're supposed to know in order to be successful on that particular assessment at that time. Teachers should test what they teach. Teachers should test what they teach. And it should be clear what the kids will be tested. The students, I call them kids all the time. The students should be assessed. Teachers should use feedback to help students with learning and help them to identify and correct areas of weaknesses. Yes? So you cannot have an adversarial relationship with your students. You must be able to work with them as a partner in this, what we have to accomplish. We have a goal, we have a common goal. The thing is, I was prepared to help you to get to the point based on what is required. So there should be no adversarial relationship between. There should be mutual respect. There should be opportunity for them to ask questions and to get them answered. If you're teaching and a student says, I do not understand this, to Miss or Sir, you say, all right, ask me a question, or show me your book, or do something so you can clear it up for them. You cannot say to a child, but you're supposed to know it. The child doesn't know it. It is saying, I don't know it. So saying, I'm supposed to know it, use that energy to show him what to do. Frustration, you have to show your frustration after you leave the classroom. You need to answer the questions. And give them opportunity to participate and to ask questions. And don't say, any questions? Okay. You give them any time? You give them any time? Any questions? And you move right along. Okay? Teachers should review the results of all assessments. If you're teaching area today, and you know in a couple of days you're going to be teaching volume, you need to have a good idea of the level of mastery the students have on area. Because there's only one step from area to volume. Do you see that? So I should know. And if don't say that you have 15 questions to have. Give a question, one question on area. I used to, as I told you before, I used to separate a page into 5 strips where I ask one question. That's their passport to leave my room. So I can just look at it, put your name on it, this person understands, this person don't understand, and I make my piles. Then I make a decision as to how I'm going to handle that tomorrow. And sometimes, like for instance, I'm teaching, what is the class I'm teaching now? I'm teaching a class on analytic geometry. And I didn't know that people in Jamaica didn't use a certain sign for subset. Because I used the squeeze in the U with the line under it. And it's not anywhere in the high school syllabus. That's what they tell me. Really? No. I know that one. You know that's the only thing they gave me was this. Oh Lord, I want to make a pen. So I'm going to show these people. They showed me. They said it's not the marker.
Miss, that can mean the book.
This one I don't think. I wrote this course, so that's why I have this one. That's one, and this is another. If you want to make a point that, if you want to make a point that it is a proper subset, can you see? Can you see it? The top one, we say proper if we are making sure that we want to emphasize that, right? But this is generally, the bottom one is generally, we use it for subset. And so the thing is, don't you give some kind of assessment and say, let me see if they know. Make sure that you know that you have covered the steps necessary for them to gain the skills in that particular area. So as I say, area is supposed to be short. Give them one question, just one, because you've been assessing, formatively all the time. But the day or the time before you go into the volume, you check to see, take the temperature of the class on area, because you're going to multiply by one more dimension to get to volume. Do you see what I'm talking? The point I'm trying to make. It doesn't, the pile on causes frustration. Okay? Now, you should review the results of that little assessment and say, okay. Now, if you see everybody making a mistake, a lot of people making a mistake in certain areas, that is how you start the next class. So, they say a setback is a feedback causes a setback, but it provides a springboard for going forward. So you see, if you get bad information or undesirable results, that's the time for reflection. That's the time to search to find other strategies. That's the time. But you cannot determine strategies if you don't know what's going on. When I taught earlier, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, I taught it off. Square first, then rectangle, then triangle, then compound figures. They must be ready now for us to do volume. That's not so all the time. You have to know that to know how well the content has been delivered. Put your ego aside and use that energy that you're going to say. Those children, and say all kinds of negative things about them. Take that energy and try to find something to correct the situation that you have unearthed. The teacher should use the feedback to help the students. Despite teachers' best efforts, however, some students will fail. Despite your efforts, some students will fail. But if an overwhelming amount of people are failing, you get the flag. Some students will fail, but you will get the flag if 80% of your children are failing. You get the flag. Okay? Teaching methods have to be revised. Improvement in instructional delivery is saying, improvement. There's people who have placards and say, I want justice. A placard has now been written by your observation that you need to revise your instructional delivery around that particular area. And you don't have to advertise it. You have to realize it and do something about it. Because teachers are mostly secretive. How many teachers in here have gone to another teacher and said, I don't quite understand this, show me? Anybody? Will anybody do that? I want an answer.
Yeah.
When everybody go to another teacher in the math department and say, I don't quite understand. Do you have success in delivering this particular topic? Show me what you do. Has any teacher ever done that? No. So the thing is, nothing is wrong with that. A lot of teachers. That's right. But do you know every other profession seek another advice? And some get it electronically, like doctors can send you to get an MRI or this or that. But the doctor was trained, the doctor is certified, but they cannot know everything. And so don't be bashful. Because some teachers will be more successful in delivering certain topics than others because they found the key. They found the key and they help you to use that key to open the door to learning. But a lot of teachers do not want to ask any other teacher because they think that that is a step down for them. So they walk to their classes with anxiety because they know they're not up to scratch and the children continue to fail. So I say some children will fail, but if you have an overwhelming amount of children in your school, in your class, that is failing and failing in every area, just failing math outright, you must take a second look. Okay? Now, you have the word at your hands on the internet. You can type in anything, Google it, do something, find something that works. You must also use strategies that apply to different learning styles. Not only that, we have children with special needs in our classrooms, and their assessment of the material that you're teaching is going to demand research and creativity on your part. If Johnny cannot write, you have to make the narrative, leave out the keywords, and let him write those. He doesn't have to write the whole thing because based on some children's special needs, they get too frustrated. Okay? If I cannot do long division, there is a way to teach children who cannot do it using anything but their 2 times table. You know how to do that? Do you know 2 times table? You know 2 times table. You can say, okay, if you know your 2 times table, just say what you're doing. If you're doing 4 times table, say your 2 times table and double it. Do you see that? Hello? Yes. Most children can know your 2 times table. So if you want to say 2 times 5, if you want to say 4 times 5, say 2 times 5 and double it. Do you see that? So 2 times table is twin sisters, not fraternal twins. Fraternal? Yes. They're not made from the same egg, but they know they're 2 times table. Then you get the 4 times table for free. And you get one other one. 2 and 4 and which other one? 8. 8. 2, just look at it. If you look at the table from 1 through 12, you know that 2, if you know the 2 times table, the 4 times table come as a bonus. So your 2 times if you're doing 4 times anything and double it. That's your answer. Yes? 3 matches with what? 3 matches with 6 and 6 matches with 12. So we're going 6 out of 12 already, right? And everybody knows the 1 time table. Most people know the 5 times table. Yes? And most people know the 10 times table because you add 0 to whatever you're multiplying, right? And then 11, we used to sing it. 11 times table, we used to sing it. 11, 1, 11, 11, 2, 22, 11, 3, 33, that kind of stuff. So really, the only timetable that you might have to think about is the 7s and the 9s. And the 9s have a trick. Everybody knows the trick to the 9 times table? Does everyone know the trick? Yeah. The results add to 9. And what you're multiplying by, which is called the multiplier, right? The answer must start with 1 less. So if I'm multiplying 2 times 9, the answer starts with a 1. And 2 digits must add to 9, so it's 8. If I'm multiplying 9 by 5, I must start with a 4, so the answer must be 45. Right. You didn't know that?
No.
It's so easy.
Well, I know that you were telling me, but I just never thought about it.
Well, yes, that is what it is. So if I'm saying 9 times 10, right, the answer must start with a 9. So the only thing I can put in 9 times 10 is a 0. You see? So on the 9 times tables answers, you have 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Because what? 12 times 9 is? What is 12 times 9? Does it add up to 9? Of course. So then, we are going to 7 now. So kids know that their tables. I don't know why people turn 25 and 35 and don't know their tables. Because it's so easy. And then you mix them up. And you give your students, those are the things you can give it to settle the class down. Whoever gets all of these right, you have 100 problem multiplication in 1 minute. Give them after lunch and give them a point. And if they can get 5 points for the week, then they can get 1 point added to their grade. Or something. Make it so that it has some kind of reward, some kind of benefit. And a higher grade is better than a monetary award. So the thing is that we get our timetables for free and don't know it. Okay? And big people don't know their timetables. A lot of them. And they can't take off their shoes in the exam to count all the things that have to come. And teachers are going to make a million zeros and all of that. All of that needs to go out through the window. Just show them how easy it is. They know the 1s, the 5s, the 10s, and the 11s already. So the rest, we just give them the recipe. 4 is double time what there is 2. And everybody can know the 2 times table in 5 minutes. Now, there are teachers in Jamaica who have to cope with high volume classes. The 50 and the 62 and that kind of a thing. What we can do with assessments, we can do group assessments. So if I have 45 students in my class, right, and I make them in groups of 5, right, I cut down on the number of things that I have to assess. So I could get to the point where they have to give me a write-up of whatever the activity is, whatever the assignment is for the assessment. And groups can be together for more than one class, or one class or for a term, depending on what your objectives are. But the thing about it is that when you have a group activity and you set the tone that or you are working together, I can ask anybody to give the report. People should make, you would know that at least they will think about it and say, what if I'm going to be the one that is asked? I better know this. That kind of a thing. And it prompts them to learn whatever is being taught to them at that time. The mastery learning is what we call it. And so if we have groups, we cut down on the number of papers that we have to mark. Although some parents say, you know, I want to see your initial in my class every day. That has gotten out of hand, because what the teacher does, she comes in, morning students, good afternoon students, write something on the board, do 2 or 3 examples, assign the next 5 problems, and start marking. Did she teach a lesson? Did he teach a lesson? No. And a lot of teachers do that. One time I was assessing a teacher, and I got up and left. There was nothing to assess. The only thing I saw was a pencil like this, and she was doing this on a paper. That is not teaching. She will run around the class because parents say, I have to see your red ink in my book. She marked it right or wrong, no assessment, no recollection of how many people got it wrong, but her initial is there, the date is there, the tick or the X is there, and that's it. Is that teaching? Is that teaching? That's not teaching. And so I left, and she said, Miss, why do you leave? I said, what I'm supposed to write for 40 minutes class. For the first 10 minutes, you need 3 problems on the board, assign the next 5 and started marking. That's a 10-minute class. There was no development, there was no idea exchange, there was nothing. They were doing, and they're running all over the class and saying, wait, I'm coming to you, I'm coming to you, I'm coming to you. Another way, when you are working on a class, when you're working in a class, and you have to tell each child individually what they're supposed to do, it means something was unclear. It means something was not clear. So in summary then, for this part, the most powerful tool to improve student learning is assessment, because it gives you the feedback. It's used to rank schools and students. Instead, focus must be placed on making assessment results an integral part of the instructional program, and it is a vital ingredient to help students learn. There is an offer that I want to give you. Please write this name down. Thomas R. Gutsy. I don't have any other information. I read it, I write it down. I didn't write it down. Just like it sounds. R is the middle initial.
Oh, Thomas R.
Guskey is the last name.
And you never heard Gutsy.
Yes, Guskey. Guskey. Yes. The topic, Guskey. Gus, Key. Now, I want these question answers. Oh, the title of the book that he did, I want to give it to you. How classroom assessment improves learning. How classroom assessment improves learning. Information is the key, remember. All right, what I want you to reflect on classify large-scale assessment? Would you classify it as formative or summative?
Summative.
Okay. You are what?
Summative.
I said large-scale assessment. I would say that is summative. Because large-scale assessment is like a C-set and then we go. Yeah. How do you feel about teaching to tests? How do you feel about teaching to tests? Teaching to the test, you know, they say we have to find the area of compound shapes. You teach that. How are you going to, how do you rate teaching to tests? What's on the test is what I'm going to teach. Nobody have an idea? How do you feel about teaching to tests?
I think it limits what the children learn. You're just going to teach.
You have to speak to the class, so you have to speak a little louder.
Yeah, I'm saying I think it limits what the children will learn about the topic.
It's limits what the children will learn. That is one, yes. And do you know teaching to a test is often done without any effort for conceptual understanding. You're teaching, this is what you're to do. So you have to remember a procedure. Procedures cannot be taken out of the equation, but it must not be the only thing in the equation. Because when you have to learn, suppose, right, I can gather information that is linked to other information, linked, and I see the structures following me. You see what I'm saying? If I can do that, it is better than I learn this, it's in a bag, a plastic bag. There is no connection to anything else. So that's why the children perform so poorly on the exams, because it's a burden to keep all those things in separate packages. In there, I must remember the procedure to do this. I must remember the procedure to do this. I must remember. Now you must remember the procedure. But if you can estimate, you don't have to get problems wrong because you go back and look at it, right? If you have a number sense, you don't have to get the problems incorrect. If you see something like buying, what is it they said in the store? Buying a bag of chips, right? For how much does it cost? $45, $50, whatever, right? But suppose you are doing something and when you divide, you get 500. A flag should go up in your head and say a bag of chips. Just a regular bag of chips for $500. So it should come to you because you have number sense and it's beyond the procedure. Because you did the procedure, you made a mistake and you get 500, a flag has to go up in your head and say, it's out of the sphere of what a bag of chips, 2 ounces or 3 ounces to charge $500. But some people don't care. I divided, they showed me how to divide. Do you see? Conceptual understanding, number sense. Where we are going.
There was some experience at one point where the worded questions, and then when you're checking it and you're doing the calculation and you're saying, okay, but if the banana chips is for $50 and it's saying you bought 2 banana chips, you're not expecting to go over 100, and then you're getting some 500, and then you realize, oh, I wonder if the teacher made a mistake. They hold your hand up and like, Miss, is this correct? Because maybe the teacher had placed like some other number and saying, okay, for example, giving an answer. saying two banana chips, one of them costs 50, you know, and then and you know, you're gonna pay $150 or something like that. Mm-hmm. So I experienced that once where there was a question being asked and I was like, I don't understand, like you're just getting an answer and the answer just doesn't seem to make
Some people want to get an answer and they know they have to multiply or something like that.
That teacher actually came out and said, oh, there's a mistake for question number.
Exactly.
So
the thing is, you need to have some number sense. So we shouldn't just teach procedure. We should heighten their awareness of these things, right? Some things cannot be contextually true outside the classroom, and you don't put a context knowledge in the classroom. If a bag of banana chips costs $50, then you know that you cannot have certain numbers coming up, because if it's not right on the outside of the classroom, it cannot be right on the inside, because math is a servant of every subject. Okay? All right. So when you read that article, you can tell me about it. Now we're going to talk about homework and assessment. Can a homework be an assessment? Can a homework be an assessment?
Yes.
But the homework that is an assessment cannot be the next 5 problems in the book alone. Right? You can ask something for them to ponder. You can ask them to collect some things. Sometimes they don't have to write anything, right? Sometimes you look at, if you're taking a survey, or you're collecting information on something like around your house. If you want for them to measure the area of the floor plan of their room, or their homes, or something, right? Suppose you want surface area of a room. What kind of measurements have to be taken or have to be known? Because you have to take all of them. If we're in this room, a room typically has, if it's not an extraordinarily shaped room, it's in a rectangular square form, right?
Right.
So if we want to take the surface area, right? You could ask the child for the homework, right? What are the important measurements you have to take? The ones that you must take. Do they have to measure every corner of the room? So for conceptual understanding, you ask the child to measure the room, and to get the surface area, because we want to paint it. You know, the wallpapering, but in place of the wallpaper, you can ask about that. But to say how many square feet are totally, covers the room. From the ceiling, you can leave out the ceiling, but you can get the ceiling and then have to measure the ceiling. Isn't that true? So what would be a conceptual understanding of finding the surface area of a room, including all parts? You would ask it, what are the critical measurements that I should take? Right? So, if you just look around the room you're in, you're in a rectangular room, Bermuda.
It's a square. It's not a rectangle, it's most likely a square.
I see, well, from what I'm looking at, it looks to me, but even if it's a square, it's fine. Look around and take a minute and tell me, everybody in here, what are the critical measurements you have to take to find the surface area of every wall in this room, and the floor and the ceiling? The length, what else? The length, the height, and the length, and the width. So we can take, we need a maximum of 3 of three measurements. Yes. All right. Now, if I give the homework to my student, right, and they can also draw a net of the room, right? They can flatten the room out, right? So then, and you ask how many lengths they would need to, to reckon with, how many widths and how many heights, right? So to get this one, I need one length and a height to get this one, right? And so on. Would you see that would be an interesting homework? And they don't have to have a tape measure or a measure to measure it. We're just asking them for the conceptual understanding. Rather, that would be talking about surface area. Rather than give them 6 word surface area problems to do, and they don't know why they do what they do if they do it. Do we see that? So homework and assessment can walk hand in hand. And I gave you an example. Do we see that? And every child has some kind of room. They might not have it to their own selves, but some room is there for them to live in. And you can say, do one room, right? So that is a kind of assessment that you could have. The outcome problems in a book and surface area don't tell you a thing. Because the net is drawn, and then now they have to, you can call it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And they have the measurements. Okay? So you need to work on that. Now, homework may be defined as an activity relevant to the achievement of the objectives. Do you think that if you want to find the surface area of a room and you tell them to do that exercise, do you think that objective of finding surface area will be satisfied?
Yes, because I think that practical experience along with design hands-on activity applies to real things.
Exactly. Yes. This may include meaningful, but they are not routine. The routine ones is to do the next 5 problems. And the child says, I'll do it at 6 o'clock. They put it off, they do it at 7 o'clock. They put it off again to do it at 8 o'clock. And by the time night comes down, they have not done it. Because it's not meaningful. Parents could even be involved in that. Now, you can talk about direct and indirect measurements, right? Do I have to have a tape measure as long as the height or as long as the width to measure? Do I have to do that?
No.
I can measure, I can do indirect measurement, right? The tape measure is never as long. Most people don't have a tape measure in their houses. But what could they use since Jamaica is the queen of time? They tie everything. They could use the tiles, right? And these look like Polish tiles. No, they think that's tiles too. I'm saying, you don't measure it, you count it. I know what I'm saying. I'm assuming that it's told. Most things like that. So I'm saying.
Those are all 2 by 2.
Yeah, but you know, you see, you don't include the things that make it difficult. What you do, you use the floor area for the ceiling area. So you don't have to climb up or do anything. So again, this would overrun. No, it's still, you can estimate. You can't miss, it's the same length going across the air. It doesn't change the picture. No, I don't understand. It doesn't matter because we're going this way. You see, I'm a level here, you know, I'm just checking those. Well, okay, I can make estimates of those. 1 inch. Yes, estimate, but what I'm saying is, if they give you an accurate estimate, it is a definite indication that they know what they're talking about. right? Now along here, we might have, I don't know how many tabs, but the thing is that we can't go wrong if we're 6 inches over or under. If we are 2 feet over or under, we can't go wrong. But at least the child went through the exercise. So it's a non-routine problem. And if they can tell you that I need only 3 measurements, I need the length, the width, and the height, they are way into the understanding of area and of surface area. Do we see? But the next 5 problems or the 5 odd number problems or whatever might not be as helpful. So you can know from homework if the child understands what is it you're talking about.
Like I used to question the kilometers per hour and say, so if we're going 20 kilometers that we're gonna drive, and I used to question the kilometers per hour and the miles per hour. That question.
At one point, I think people didn't understand what that meant. So that's okay.
I used to question that.
But you can
traveling on the road with parents, and I'm like, look at me, people in advance and even I used to question those things.
That's good. What you can say a child wants to do homework to watch a TV show, but you don't send them home empty-handed. Send them home with what you want out of it on a piece of paper with a blank following space, a space following for them to write on it. Children like to watch TV, but they might not watch serious TV, right? But you don't have to have serious TV to get something up because all they're doing is counting. How many commercials did it have? What are the normal lengths of commercials? What in fact, how much news you got, or how much of the program you got that was not devoted to program, the storyline or whatever, versus the commercials, right? What we are saying to them, you can discriminate. You can tell that in an hour's program, they get 40 minutes? 40 minutes?
Yeah, it almost Tom and Jerry.
Half an hour. So therefore,
Tom and Jerry
yes,
versus advertisement.
right. Or you can guess. You can guess.
They went and they actually thought.
Mm-hmm. So that means that they not only play to the givability part of it, but they got some data from it. And do you know that that data is critical to the people who run the TV stations and that kind of a thing? Because there's something called Super Bowl in the States. And to get a 30-second commercial is like between like $5 and $10 million. Because the viewership is so strong on that day. And we teach kids like that. We don't have to give them the routine homework because we are showing them, right, like to get your commercial on prime time is a different rate from, we're talking about rate is school, right? It's a different rate from something happening at 12:30 at night. Why, children? Why? Do we see that? Why? Why it's cheaper for a commercial at 12:30 in the night than 5:30 in the afternoon? Okay? Why, children? Why? You see what I'm saying? They would know that everything on television depends on viewership. Then it has a money part to it, because if you have a show and you're not getting the viewership, they will cut you after the first contract is up. They won't renew it. So rate is important, right? So what is the rate for that? Viewership per hour. They have some shows that are in syndicate. That means it's all over the world, translated into other languages. The actors are long dead and they still show the shows because it has so much appeal. Okay? And people have something in their hands looking almost like a phone that they can press and change the channel. They change the channel. They do not have to look for that. That's rate. Viewership per hour, because rate compares two different entities. Okay? Alright? So, another thing, you could give a mock test as a take home. It's at high stakes, they will do it. Right? But the thing is that it is not probably as rigorous, well, it should be as rigorous as the test, but it will carry as much weight in terms of the grade. But if I give a child a take-home test and they get some help to do it, not somebody doing it for them, they are also benefiting. Do you see that? Because there's going to come a time when there's no help. And so you better be sure that somebody showed me rather than somebody did it for me. Do we see that?
So you're saying it would be okay to give a take-home test. So how would you grade that? Could you repeat? How would you grade that? Because knowing that they may get help, you know, that's not their own thinking, because they may get help from outside.
Well, you raise that with them before you give it to them. And they are not going to get as much of a mark as a test that they get in class. Because if their mother or their brother or their neighbor helps them to understand something, it's a benefit to them. So I would not grade it as if it was done independently, because when you send out the test, you know, it's likely that other people could have input. And you can spot check on it too, right? You can spot check on it too by what you see. Because the take-home test is like a pre-test to the test that you're going to get in school. Okay? So remember that everything is not the next 5 problems. Because some people look at it as busy work, postpone it till midnight and go to sleep. Don't do it. Children also know, but I don't remember this because I should go to the top. That is a benefit. That is a benefit. Because it's homework. Nobody's going to lose any eyes or limbs or anything. But they might just look it up. Yes?
You know, I was speaking to an 11-year-old.
You have to speak up, you know.
I had this experience with an 11-year-old and also a 12-year-old sometime between last year and this year. And both of them basically said to me that, oh, they just hate math. They hate math. And so, and I'm like, why? And you know what they said to me? They're like, well, you know the meaning of math? I'm saying, you tell me. They're like, you Google it. It's mental abuse to humans. And I'm saying, but you realize, and then I'm saying, how well? I remember I asked another question, and then one of them, she was like, I don't do bad at math, you know, but it is mental abuse to humans. So I'm saying, you realize that you're basically taking what you saw on the internet and stating that you hate math, but you can do well at it. So, you know, I see those things, and I'm saying, when you have stuff like that, and kids now, especially with the technological, you know, with being tech savvy and getting online and seeing stuff like that, those things will have a negative impact on kids, because all they're saying to her, like, well, you're not bad at math. And you just thought that seeing that on the internet means that you're being abused. Well,
the thing about it is that the children might accept what they see on the internet as gospel. But the thing is that we are born with a brain that has so much potential that we don't even scratch the surface of what it's able to retain and from which we can retrieve information. So that does not hold anything with me, so I don't. So, but it doesn't have to be a test, Bermuda. It can be a practice test for the real thing coming up. It might force them to go to their books It's without the time testing. It's without the pressures of that. It's really just checking, what do I know or don't know? And if I have to look up on my notes, if I have to look up on a textbook, that's not a penalty. It's okay. It's really okay. But if you want to give them a little point, you know, to say, well, you did this homework has some points, then you could do that. To properly assess homework, the teacher must determine the learning objective associated, and I said that before. It could be skill practice. It could be critical thinking. Because you want to know how you have to know what you're doing, because you don't have to put in all that labor. Once the objective behind the homework is the teacher is fully aware of the objective, then you know how to assess the assignment. In skill practice, you're going to ask the following questions. Are students able to demonstrate the skill necessary for task completion? Do they have the skills? Do they have the skills? If they cannot complete the thing and they can go part of the way, is that good information for the teacher? Good information. Most of my students got stuck at this point. I need, according to Vygotsky, what is that called? According to Vygotsky, zone of proximal development. Zone of proximal development. Vygotsky says children can reach a certain point and they just need a little helping hand to take them over that point, and they will be on their way. So the teacher can get information from those types of homework, and students will know that pinpoint, it's not as I can't do it, because sometimes that's not the way. Some students can do to a certain point, but you can't throw up your hands and say, I can't do this. This is too hard. But you cracked the surface already. You did something that was correct. And that is an encouragement for the child to stay motivated and to gain confidence. I didn't get all of it wrong. A part of it wrong. I'm going to go the next time I get help over that part. So a pre-test or a practice test carries up a little bit of points, right? And then you can learn a whole lot from the response. You can use it also, it doesn't have a name, to make charts like scatter plots and all those other things, right? For question 1, dot, dot, dot. For question 2, and you can see it on a graph where, you know, fewest kids got this one wrong. So that is pretty well understood. So many kids got number 5 wrong that my chart is now way up. My dots are all the way up. And so therefore, I need to do something about it. Because most likely, it's not a function of the children learning this. But number 5 has a skill in there that they have not mastered yet. So do you see how the homework can feed into data gathering, that feed into planning for different strategies for them to learn? Do you see all kinds of links going on here? Okay? So for skill practice, you're going to say, are my students able to complete the task correctly? If not, really most of them experience difficulty and you get this situation going. Okay? Now for critical thinking, that means we're going up on Bloom's taxonomy. True? We're going up on Bloom's taxonomy. Is the assignment clearly outlined to the students? Don't give them an essay. Give them a 1, 2, 3, 4. So, because it's a big task. And they need to see, excuse me, Monica, Yeah, I'm still leaving at 7 o'clock. Yes, because the same place where we met. Okay, fine. Okay, so what happened here, we have, for them to accomplish it in parts, it must be clear. Then you ask if there are any factual errors when you're looking at the assignment. So these are the questions you're asking yourself as you mark the questions, right? Did the students answer the question that was asked of them, right? Did the students give reasons, facts, example? Do you see the application coming in there? Do you see those things higher on the taxonomy coming in? Okay? To support their position. So they're saying, I believe this, and they are justifying it. That is big, big critical thinking way up on the taxonomy. The students demonstrate awareness that complex problems could be approached from many perspectives. Because some things can be approached from the numbers only, right? Can be approached from just the numbers.
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
You are referring to critical thinking, using it as an assessment. But I thought it was like something like to give the student extra things to do higher than what you just taught them.
No. What we are doing, I'm saying homework, right? Can be for skill practice. Do they know how to find the area, right? The critical thinking, what are the fewest measurements you need to find the area of the surface area of the room? It's a different level altogether. A different level, because that is open wide. You see, they can approach it in many different ways. They can say, if I don't measure every inch of it, I won't know. They can say, I can take an estimate, and they can say, I do not have to measure it at all. I can use the tiles on the floor. Do you do tiling in your country? Do you? Okay. Jamaica is the queen of tiles. Jamaica has the prize for tiling. They tile pathways, they tile walkways, they tile steps, they tile walls, they tile roofs, they tile everything. Ceilings, not roofs. Okay. Okay. So then you can ask yourself on those kinds of assignment, did the students demonstrate any originality, or they just went down the road by the same place all the time, right? Now, you also can do problem solving. When you are correcting a problem solving, first one I call was skill practice, second one I call was critical thinking, third one I call is problem solving. If you ask somebody to find in words, to find the area of what? Of a patio, that is not problem solving. They already have the area formula to use. Okay? Now, with problem solving, these are the questions you ask when you're assessing it. Did the student employ the correct approach and use the right set of skills to solve the problem? Did the student mention that there could be more than one correct answer? Are the solutions realistic? That means if they're realistic, you know that the child has number sense. Because you know that the reality of our situation in the Caribbean is that they're going to get a pencil and paper test. But if they have some understanding of what is going on and knowledge of the procedure, right, then they're well on their way to doing better. Because It's a burden to learn math as separate little pieces, like rice grains. You imagine how many rice grains are in a pound of rice? That's how, if you teach math that way, then they have to go recall all those hundreds of pieces to get to where they're going. And they have to know to plug the right one. But if I can attach area to surface area, area to volume, area to compound figures, you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I don't have to go separate them. I learn this today, I learn this tomorrow, I learn this the other day, and keep them separate. You know, area is area. Area is measured in square units. So it can be square, any unit you want. Square meters, square centimeters, square what. Then they have an idea. They have an idea that a centimeter, right, is going to be so much smaller than a meter. So if they're getting some vast numbers for meters, right? If you say give the answer in meters, in square meters and square centimeters, right? They should mix them up. They should know. If they're getting it wrong, they should know. They should know because there are some number sets and visual picture in their minds, a mental picture of what a centimeter is compared to what a meter is. Do we see that? And people get mixed up with the zeros a lot of times. Okay? So the thing is that we have to be aware of all these things. So what I want you to do, and tell me next week when we are all gathered here, this is your homework. Create a list of 2 non-routine. I've been describing some. You can't use the ones we have spoken about. Create a list of 2 non-routine homework assignments and explain the skills needed to complete the assignment correctly. Non-routine.
And explain the skills.
The skills needed to complete the assignment correctly. Give 1 routine. Mathematics. All this is mathematics, so I hope you know that. Give 1 routine mathematics problem that is appropriate for the class you teach or the class you choose. Like, you know, so that will determine the grade level. List the skills needed to complete the task successfully. Choose a problem and list the skills needed. Do you remember the questions you have to ask when you, because this is going to be a non-routine problem, so it has to do with the critical thinking and the problem solving part of it.
So one is one routine and the other one is one non-routine.
2 non-routine.
2 non-routine and 1 routine.
Yes, and skills needed to do all of them.
Okay.
So homework can be used as assessment. All right, we're going to stop for today. Have a good evening.
Thank you.
Thank you.